This audio presentation was pre-recorded and edited for brevity and clarity.
Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Diane Camp, and I'm the Vice President of Scientific Affairs at BrightFocus Foundation. I'm very pleased to be your host for today's Macular Chat 2026 Grants in Focus Driving Breakthroughs in Macular Degeneration. Macular Chats are a monthly program supported in part by sponsorship from Kiowa Kirin, Genentech, and Regeneron, designed to provide people living with macular degeneration and the family and friends who support them with information straight from the experts. The information provided in this program is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding any medical concerns or conditions. Please note that Bright Focus does not endorse or promote any specific brand or product. Bright Focus Foundation's Macular Degeneration Research Program has supported more than $61 million in scientific grants exploring the root causes and potential preventions, treatments, and looking towards a cure for macular degeneration. It is currently investing in 42 active projects in 8 countries across the globe. Today, I'm extremely excited because I'll be talking with Dr. Jamie Zhu, Director of Vision Science Programs at Bright Focus Foundation, as we highlight 14 newly awarded research grants to exceptional age related macular degeneration scientists around the world, an investment of $4.7 million. Jamie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Diane. Really excited to talk to you today. It's a pleasure to speak with you to talk about all the exciting and innovative research that we are funding to end age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. But before we start talking about the grants, Diane, would you like to update our audience on the state of research funding in America?
Absolutely. You may have heard in the news lately that there have been new policies introduced at the National Institute of Health, or NIH, and other federal funding agencies to make it harder for scientists to receive and keep enough funding to support their research. This will affect the scientists in all of our programs, including those in our macular degeneration research program. The good news is that Bright Focus is still here. We are not changing how we support the scientific community to accelerate their innovations to better help the communities affected by AMD, which is you. So we need your help even more to fund the best science recommended by the extremely talented experts on our scientific review committee for macular degeneration research.
100% Diane. Thanks so much for providing that information for our audience. Bright Focus Foundation is 100% committed to funding research that will end macular degeneration, Alzheimer's, and glaucoma.
Exactly. Okay, start off. Could you provide our listeners with an overview of Bright Focus's grant application process and scientific vetting?
Yeah, of course. So, we have a rigorous scientific process in place to ensure that the most innovative science gets funded in a timely manner to move the field forward. Our Scientific Review Committee, or as we call it, our SRC, determines which grants get funded each year and is composed of world-class scientists and clinicians in the A&D field from across the world. These scientists volunteer a lot of their time to ensure that every dollar that is donated by everyone on this call goes to A&D research that will enhance our understanding of the disease, as well as create new preventions and innovative treatments for AMD. On behalf of Bright Focus and our Scientific Review Committee, we are immensely grateful for everyone on this call and across the world who donate to our organization to help fight age-related macular degeneration. And so every year, starting in the summer, we put out an open call for applications. And one of the great things about our call for proposals is that it is driven by the ideas from across the scientific community. And we define this as our 360-degree approach to fighting AMD. And so, really, this allows us to receive a broad range of scientific ideas that allow us to create a diverse portfolio of proposals, as well as researchers from across the world. Since 1999, our MDR program has funded more than 375 grants, totaling more than $61 million. And so overall, we really leave no stone unturned when it comes to finding a cure for AMD. And so for this past fiscal year, we received 188 applications to our MDR programs. With consultation from our chair of the committee, Dr. Mike Gorin, who's from UCLA, I assigned each application 2 to 3 reviewers based on their expertise for that particular application. All proposals are checked against the pool of available reviewers for real or potential conflicts of interest prior to assignment of the proposal to individual reviewers. From there, each assigned reviewer carefully assesses the science based on its impact on macular degeneration, how innovative the proposal is, how rigorous the experimental design is, and if the budget and scientific environment are appropriate. After multiple rounds of determining which proposals are the best and the brightest, our SRC deliberate in person and make a final ranking and recommendation of applications for funding to the BrightFocus Board of Directors. Full critiques are given to the applicants so that if they do not receive funds that year, they can improve and apply next year. This process in total has yielded 14 promising projects that we will highlight that will drive treatments and cures for AMD.
Great. So everyone now knows how the sausage is made, so to speak, of how we scientifically vet these projects so that you know that whatever you donate is going towards streamline to accelerating the science to help cure this disease. So let's get down to learning more about these innovative AMD awards.
Yeah, let's get to it. I have separated the 14 awarded grants into 7 360-degree categories that are related to research topics. The first 360-degree approach research area I will go over is called regenerating damaged cells. And so, unlike other cells in our body, like skin cells, cells in our eye do not typically regrow or regenerate after damage has occurred. In age-related macular degeneration, cells in our eye become damaged and ultimately cause loss of vision. Researchers that we have funded in this category are studying unique animals that regenerate eye cells and are looking at how our eye's immune system can be enhanced to promote regeneration of cells that are lost at AMD. This year, we have one really exciting project joining this category. So this researcher is Dr. Ryoji Emamoto, and he is a professor at Harvard University, and he is looking at how to preserve cone photoreceptors in dry age-related macular degeneration. Dry AMD, as a lot of people know on this call, is the leading cause of irreversible blindness in adults over 50 years old. Yet, there is no effective treatment to preserve or restore vision. The root cause of dry AMD is the degeneration of cone photoreceptors, which are the cells that are essential for daylight color vision. And so Dr. Emamoto's group has recently discovered a pathway that, when activated, can promote cone survival. And so using a therapy called gene therapy, Dr. Emamoto looks to activate this pathway to help promote cone photoreceptor survival and regenerate those lost cells.
Wow, that's fantastic. Funding a researcher who is working on a future treatment for those who have lost vision already and need to have it reactivated with this cone survival pathway. So, looking forward to seeing the progress on this project.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next 360-degree category is called innovative approaches to treatments. And so in this category, we have four research groups that are developing new cutting edge treatments and technologies to treat and diagnose AMD more accurately. And so our first award in this category comes from Dr. Marco Bassetto from the University of California, Irvine, and he is working on the development of an oral treatment for dry AMD using everyday anti-inflammatory drugs. So, normally, our body has ways to protect and prevent certain molecules from reaching the eye, since the eye is a really delicate tissue, and our body makes it so that we don't have harmful things that come into it to make it worse. And so, one of the underlying causes of AMD is inflammation that occurs from damaged cells inside the eye. And so in Dr. Passetto's proposal, he aims to leverage the natural transportation system of vitamin A into your eye, in which, as many people may not know, vitamin A is an important vitamin needed to support proper vision. And so, what he's going to do is to attach anti inflammatory drugs such as aspirin and ibuprofen, to get into the eye selectively using this transport system of vitamin A into the eye. And so this is really cool because this will help suppress the inflammation associated with dry AMD and geographic atrophy, potentially. And so this novel therapy will help change the current treatment paradigm for dry AMD and geographic atrophy from, as the current standard from frequent intraocular injections to potentially oral pills that might treat the disease.
That's amazing. I mean, it's so cool that this group will be taking advantage of like a natural delivery system to essentially, cloak in this, anti-inflammatory drug to go through a door that exists already. And it's an oral pill instead of an injection. So that'll be really cool. One thing you did mention was geographic atrophy. And could you just briefly explain how that is different from dry AMD?
Yeah, of course. So geographic atrophy is an advanced, more severe stage of dry AMD or dry age-related macular degeneration. In earlier stages of dry AMD, most people notice small changes in their vision, but with geographic atrophy, patients develop blind spots or blurry patches, often right in the center of their vision, that make it hard to read, recognize faces, or drive. And so these spots tend to grow larger and can merge over time, leading to permanent vision loss. And so that is what geographic atrophy is. It's a more advanced form of dry AMD.
Got it.
Perfect. So, switching gears, our second award in this category goes to Dr. Celia Bisbach, who is a researcher from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, who is working on a proposal titled Targeting Removal of a Disease-Causing Protein in Wet Age-Related Macular Degeneration. And so, a little bit different from the previous award, neovascular age-related macular degeneration, or wet AMD, is caused in part by accumulation of a protein called VEGF, or vascular endothelial growth factor. So VEGF is the acronym for that, in the retina. And so wet AMD happens when abnormal leaky blood vessels grow underneath the retina and cause sudden bleeding or fluid buildup, which can lead to rapid and often more severe vision loss than the dry form. And so current treatments for wet AMD include frequent eye injections that inhibit VEGF, which VEGF, what it does is that it helps promote blood vessel growth. And so essentially treatments for wet AMD help suppress this molecule and subsequently suppress blood vessel growth. And so in this study, Dr. Visbach is using a new strategy called targeted protein degradation to specifically target VEGF using the body's own natural waste disposal system. And so this cutting edge therapy aims to be a more effective, localized, and longer lasting therapy for wet AMD that could improve patient outcomes and quality of life by decreasing the number of eye injections needed for patients with wet AMD. So that's a really cool project that we have funded this past year. Next, we have Dr. Suman Chaudhry, who is a researcher from Harvard University and is working on a proposal titled A Novel Antioxidant to Prevent Vision Loss in Dry Age-Related Macular Degeneration. And so, like I said before, in late stage dry AMD or geographic atrophy, patients experience a drastic loss of central vision, and this can really be difficult to do everyday tasks. And so, in geographic atrophy, it has been shown that accumulation of lipids promotes oxidative stress that accelerates cellular damage in the retinal pigment epithelium, or RPE. And so, these cells, the RPE, provide essential nutrients for your eye to function properly and are one of the cells that degenerate in AMD. And so Dr. Chaudhry's study, it looks to study the application of a novel drug called PNC, which has potent antioxidant properties and the ability to reduce lipid accumulation, which could prevent the RPE from degenerating and slowing the progress of geographic atrophy. Lastly, we have Dr. Mark Dralos, who is a professor at the University of Michigan and is working on a proposal titled Studying Eye Blood Flow During Exercise to Understand the Origin of AMD. And so the previous three awards were treatments. So Dr. Mark Dralos's award is really looking at prevention for AMD. And so, an important thing to know is that in general, blood is an important way for your eye to receive nutrients and to function properly. Malfunctioning blood flow could be a marker, an early marker for age-related macular degeneration. And so, in Dr. Dralos' study, he's proposing to map blood vessels in the eye during exercise to understand how blood flow in the eye is involved in the development of AMD. And so, kind of like much like how an exercise stress test reveals diseases in vessels in the heart, Dr. Dralos' study is developing an ocular stress test to allow researchers and clinicians to detect disease affecting the eye before vision loss develops.
Wow. So we have four new projects. Three of them are looking at three new ways to try and prevent or slow down the disease. And then this last one is really cool because for a lot of preventions that are out there, just things that you can be empowered to do, like exercise and whatnot, if it's good for your heart, it's good for your eye. So like what you said, if there's a cardiac stress test, it makes sense that there could be an eye stress test. So really looking forward to the progress on these four grants. And wow, okay, so that was just the beginning of our list. What's next on your list?
Yeah, it keeps getting better, Diane. So the next 360-degree category is called genes and age-related macular degeneration. And so most forms of macular degeneration, especially the age-related form, are not linked to any specific single genetic mutation. Instead, susceptibility to AMD is scattered over a number of small irregularities of genes in your genome or DNA, and these are called single nucleotide polymorphisms. So these single nucleotide polymorphisms can arise spontaneously or they can be inherited, and their impact is modulated by factors such as age, overall health and nutrition, exposure to cigarette smoke, sunlight, and other toxins, and other factors that are related to increased risk for AMD. And so, targeted research understanding how genes can increase or decrease our risk of AMD is really vital to understanding how and why people get age related macular degeneration. And so, we have one awardee who is working on a project in the category, and her name is Dr. Petra Larsen from the German Center for Neurodegenerative Diseases, or for short, DZNE. So she is a clinician scientist working on linking retinal imaging and molecular changes in age-related macular degeneration. And so, as many of us know, AMD is a leading cause of vision loss, yet it may affect each person quite differently. And so, Dr. Larson's project combines detailed eye scans with genetic and blood based molecular analyses to uncover the biological processes behind these differences in people with AMD. By linking genetic and molecular signals to changes in the retina, she aims to identify people who are at high risk of getting AMD and to understand the disease progression, and then ultimately to guide the development of personalized strategies to protect vision in patients with AMD.
Yeah, this is really, really important because if we can have earlier detection, time lost is vision loss. So they will really be looking at this because it could help healthcare providers and affected individuals to work together to preserve and improve vision. And the other thing is so cool is that this researcher is in Germany, right? So research is international, and the next best idea for a cure could be held by someone outside of the US that then could come back and help us all. So this is great, and really looking forward to following this project.
Absolutely, Diane. Like we said before, BrightFocus Foundation's ultimate goal is to ending diseases like AMD, glaucoma, and Alzheimer's, and we leave no stone unturned, whether that researcher is in the US or internationally around the world, to ending those diseases. So we are super excited to fund from all over the world to help prevent these three diseases. Our next 360-degree category is called Diet and Nutrition's Impact on Age-Related Macular Degeneration Risk. And so, as I talked about in the previous 360-degree category about genes and age-related macular degeneration, there are many factors that are associated with increased or decreased risk of AMD. And so, one of these major factors include diet, nutrition, and other lifestyle habits. For example, eating diets such as a Mediterranean style diet, which includes foods like fish, whole grains, fruits, and leafy vegetables, can help decrease your risk of AMD by providing essential nutrients for your eyes to function properly. Lifestyle interventions such as prolonged sun exposure and exposure to smoke are also associated risk factors of AMD. And so, in this category, we have one researcher who is studying another potential associated risk factor of AMD, and that is sleep deprivation. And so Dr. Anais Francon is a researcher in Montreal, Canada, and she is studying the role of lack of sleep in the development of age-related macular degeneration. And so, as mentioned before, AMD is the leading cause of blindness and is highly driven by genetic and environmental factors. And one of these understudied factors that may predispose someone to neuroinflammatory conditions such as AMD is sleep deficiency, which affects nearly 30% of American adults. And so here, researchers investigate the role of sleep deficiency in abnormal blood vessel growth and how it affects the eye's immune system in AMD. And so what's really cool is this work could potentially identify therapeutic avenues to influence the genetics of the eye's immune system and improve biomarkers associated with AMD.
This is a really, really vital point you're making. Sleep is truly important for one's health for many diseases. Alzheimer's, glaucoma, and of course, AMD is one of those. And when you think about it, this is one of those things that could be beneficial for your health and of which you have complete control or mostly complete control. Um, so I guess my public service announcement is why don't you try to improve your sleep hygiene tonight? I know I'm going to try to.
Yeah, actually, you bet, Diane. After hearing about Dr. Francone's study, I'm going to make sure from now on that my wife and I sleep on time so we don't increase our risk for AMD. So our next 360-degree category is titled cell metabolism. So, the eye is one of the most metabolically active organs in our body, and disruptions in its metabolism have been shown to be a key cause of AMD. In particular, the retinal pigment epithelium, or RPE, is a single layer of cells in the back of the eye next to the retina that, in AMD, start to degenerate due to decreased energy production in those cells. And so researchers in this category are exploring how an imbalance between energy needs and production of those cells can contribute to AMD, and are also finding ways to restore health to the aging eye by improving cellular metabolism in those affected cells. And so our first awardee in this category is Dr. Lily Wu, who is a researcher at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. She is working on restoring crucial retinal lipids to prevent vision loss in age-related macular degeneration. In the eye, lipids called very long-chain polyunsaturated fatty acids, or for short, they're called VLC PUFAs, have been shown to be an essential fuel for the RPE. And so in AMD, these lipids are depleted, causing the RPE to malfunction. And so Dr. Wu's research looks to understand why these lipids are important in the function of the RPE, and using therapies like gene therapy, she will try and rescue the disease by introducing more of these important lipids into the RPE. So that's a really cool project related to cell metabolism. Another awardee in this category is Dr. Jason Miller, and he is a clinician scientist at the University of Michigan. He is working on a project looking at how RPE lipid degradation and secretion in age-related macular degeneration is affected. And so every single day, the RPE consumes a massive amount of fat as part of its normal routine. In a healthy eye, the cell's power plant, which is called the mitochondria, burns this fat for fuel. But in dry AMD, these powerhouses start to break down. And so because the RPE can no longer burn the fat, it really kind of starts to panic and spits out this excess fat. And this spitting out of excess fat creates toxic fatty garbage piles, and they called drusen, outside of the cells of the RPE. So to make matters worse, because the RPE cannot burn fat for energy anymore, it starts eating sugar or glucose meant for another important cell that we talked about earlier called the photoreceptors. And so Dr. Miller's proposal is looking to modulate how the RPE degrades the fat it consumes, causing those cells to secrete less fat and will be less tempted to eat sugar for energy, allowing those sugars to go to the photoreceptors to serve their energetic needs. This will ultimately lead to less toxic fatty deposits, or these small deposits called drusen, which is what they're called, to accumulate, which is a hallmark of AMD. And so his study will really further enhance our understanding of RPE degeneration and future therapies for dry AMD.
Wow, these two projects are truly looking at a vital part of the disease process, um, for a different type of future treatment target. And uh, from what you've described, it seems like to be what I'll call a Goldilocks problem, reminiscent of the fairy tale with Goldilocks and the Three Bears, where we need a careful balance of sugars and fats in our eyes, not too much, not too little, to keep the system going. So the RPE need to have just the right amount of fat, and the photoreceptors need just the right amount of sugar to be healthy. So we can't get rid of all the fat or all the sugar. It just needs to be the dial it in to the right amount that's needed for function. So we're looking forward to following the progress by these scientists.
Yeah, absolutely, Diane. Again, this is such exciting work and will really help inform the community about how to find effective treatments for AMD. So our next 360-degree category is titled Drusen Formation and Immune Response. So as I talked about in the previous section, drusen are toxic fatty garbage piles that accumulate in your eye. And so since these garbage piles are toxic, our eye's immune system triggers an immune response to get rid of these toxic garbage piles. Unfortunately, this immune system response can get out of control and cause damage to the cells important for your vision, especially in that area that's really important called the macula, which is the central part of your eye and provides sharp central vision. And so researchers in this category are focused on understanding how drusen formation occurs and the role of our eye's immune response in AMD. So our first researcher in this category is Dr. David Weisset from Harvard University, and he's working on a proposal titled Advancing AMD Diagnoses with Novel Spectroscopic Tools. So, Dr. Weisset aims to combine two cutting-edge imaging techniques, one called optical coherence tomography or OCT, which many of you on this call may have had an exam with this machine before, and another cutting edge imaging technique called Raman spectroscopy. And what he's doing is he's analyzing both the structure and chemistry of each individual drusen deposit in your eye. And so, using these cutting edge tools, Dr. Vaised and his team will identify if an individual drusen is either at a low risk or high risk for progression of AMD. And so, this innovative approach could really transform and provide a new way to diagnose and manage AMD in the clinic, where typically um, what clinicians do is they look at the number of drusen in your eye, and that correlates with the severity of the disease. And in this case, Dr. Vaised is looking at whether or not the quantity, but kind of like the quality of these drusen, and whether or not they can predispose someone for a more higher risk for progression of AMD. The next person in this category is Dr. Estelle Park, and she is a professor at Purdue University looking at uncovering the hidden link between liver health and macular degeneration. And so this project will develop a novel human liver retina chip to uncover how AMD metabolic dysfunction in the liver triggers immune responses in our eye that damage the retinal pigment epithelium or RPE, which again are those cells that help provide nutrients to the photoreceptors in our eye. So developing this liver retina on a chip will allow for more accurate understanding of how changes to our body's metabolic system can drive immune response in our eyes, which could ultimately enable new therapeutic strategies to prevent vision loss and improve health outcomes for patients living with AMD. And then lastly, we have Dr. Sarah Palco from Trinity College Dublin in the Republic of Ireland. And she is studying how retinal cells drive inflammation in AMD. So, as I mentioned in the description of this category, our immune response or inflammation play a major role in AMD, and immune cells from the blood can enter the retina and worsen the damage. This project will test whether support cells in the retina, called Mueller glia, send signals that attract these immune cells. And by blocking a major signaling pathway in Mueller glia, she aims to reduce harmful immune cells from entering the eye and reduce the disease progression in AMD.
Yeah, it's so insightful that the drusen waste disposal issue causing buildup could have its origins in cells outside of the eye, right? And outside of the RPE. So drusen and liver cells and Mueller glia, oh my. I mean, this truly emphasizes the importance of looking beyond the eyes for causes and potential treatments for AMD, and even looking into the brain because the eyes are an extension of the brain. Maybe even looking beyond the brain. So the liver is outside of the brain, and yet it's connected to the eyes somehow. That just seems really strange. But when you look at it molecularly, it's not. So we'll have to keep a close eye on looking for the common features of disease for clues to a cure in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, Diane. Let's definitely keep an eye on that in the future. That it will definitely be a very important research topic to look at in the future. Our last 360-degree category is called Understanding Early Stage Age-Related Macular Degeneration. And so, although there are several risk factors associated with AMD, currently the exact cause of AMD is unknown. And so, researchers in this category are developing new technologies and diving deep into the causes of AMD to help slow the progression of the disease and to develop more personalized treatments that intervene before the disease progresses and vision loss becomes more severe. And so, our first award in this category is Dr. Eric Ma from the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. He is studying how to protect eye blood vessels to slow vision loss and macular degeneration. So in the eye, the choroid is a layer of blood vessels beneath the eye's light sensing neurons, like the photoreceptors. It delivers oxygen and the nutrients needed for clear vision and for their cells to function properly. And so in age related macular degeneration, these vessels slowly start to wear out under disease stress, kind of like much like tires that lose their tread over time. And so this process, called choroidal atrophy, deprives our light sensing cells of the critical support they need and eventually leads to vision loss. And so Dr. Moss' project aims to uncover the molecular pathways that protect these vessels from disease damage to help identify new treatments for early stage AMD. And then, lastly, the last awardee in this category is Dr. Amir Vahabakashi from Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. And his proposal is looking to recreate the human retina in the lab to unlock new treatments for macular degeneration. And so currently, many macular degeneration research studies use animal models or cells in a dish that are two-dimensional to mimic the disease. And so, to more closely mimic the cellular environment in the native eye, Dr. Vahapakashi and his team are creating a retina on a chip to better understand the disease. So, kind of similar to Dr. Park's project that I talked about earlier about creating a liver retina on a chip, both of these projects will use stem cell derived tissues and a very small device called a microfluidic device that will model early events that lead to age related macular degeneration, including the buildup of harmful deposits and loss of retinal function. And so, by allowing real time observation and the testing of potential drug treatments, this technology aims to accelerate safer and more effective therapies for age-related macular degeneration.
Wow, this is such a cool up and coming technology. Retina on a chip, liver retina on a chip. It almost sounds straight from a science fiction novel, doesn't it? But it's real life.
Oh yeah, certainly. It just goes to show how technology has advanced even the past 5 years, Diane, to develop these new technologies to help study and find treatments for AMD.
Great. Incredible. Thanks, Jimmy, for summarizing those 14 newly funded projects. I'm so proud that we're funding these innovative scientists and science. We look forward to following the progress of this research. And I have to, again, thanks to our donors for your generous support of these game changers that I'm sure will make a difference. Um, One last public service statement that we'd like to make before we leave you today is that it is vital that you get regular appointments with your eye doctor to check for signs of age related macular degeneration. Your eye doctor will ask questions about your vision by taking a medical history, conducting a comprehensive eye evaluation. Probably it'll be dilated. And during your eye exam, your ophthalmologist could ask questions such as: do you have any trouble seeing in the distance or close up? If you close one eye at a time, is any part of your field of view missing, wavy, or distorted? Do you have a family history of eye disease, especially macular degeneration? Most importantly, do you smoke? I mean, that's a really high risk factor. What other diseases do you have, like diabetes, that could have some kind of influence? And what medications do you take? Are you allergic to any medications? So, so remember to bring your medicines or a list of them with doses to your, appointment, and also bring the eyeglasses you use the most often and like the best. So, we normally recommend for people over 40 to go on an annual basis or as recommended by your doctor. And then this means that, time lost is vision loss, so that, any changes can be detected as soon as they happen and neither start treatment or make treatment adjustments.
Absolutely, Diane. It's incredibly important and a great PSA announcement to get regular checkups to your ophthalmologist to make sure that your vision is okay.
Great. Sadly, as our time together draws to a close, Jimmy, do you have any further thoughts on Bright Focus's funding in our macular degeneration research program for our listeners?
Yeah, of course, Diane. So, as you mentioned in the beginning, there have been a lot of changes at the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, and other science funding agencies that may cause a decrease in support for research into diseases like macular degeneration, glaucoma, and Alzheimer's. However, I would like to assure everyone on this call that Bright Focus is 100% committed to funding the most innovative research in the world to find cures for glaucoma, macular degeneration, and Alzheimer's. And then lastly, I just want to share how excited we are, along with our Macular Degeneration Research Scientific Review Committee, about the 14 grants that I talked about today. Every one of these awards exists because of your support and generosity and everyone on this call. And we truly believe they'll make a real difference in the push for better treatments, interventions, and ultimately a cure for AMD. And so we are so grateful for that support. And it's really our privilege to put that support to work, funding the best and brightest researchers in the field.
Well, thanks, Jimmy. I can drop the mic on that. Thank you so much to you for taking the time to explain everything today. To our listeners, thank you so much for joining our Macular Chat. I sincerely hope you found it helpful. Our next Macular Chat will be on Wednesday, August 26th, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. This concludes today's Macular Chat.
The information provided in this recording is a public service of BrightFocus Foundation and is not intended to constitute medical advice. Please consult your physician for personalized medical, dietary, and/or exercise advice. Any medications or supplements should only be taken under medical supervision. BrightFocus Foundation does not endorse any medical products or therapies.